Hello everyone, I Shubham Jain welcome you all at CLJ channel. As you all know, Team CLJ is continuously striving to explore corporate literacy and to impart legal education in simple and lucid manner. Friends, with an aim to keep everyone updated about the Indian corporate world, we are starting with CLJ Weekly. CLJ Weekly is a series mooted with an idea to keep everyone updated about the corporate and commercial laws. Every week, we will come up with one precise episode to cover all regulatory changes from the Security Exchange Board of India, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India, Competition Commission of India, and the Reserve Bank of India. So please stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon for more updates on corporate and commercial laws. Today, we feel great pride to release first episode of the CLJ Weekly with Akansha Pandey, who is an associate editor.
Hello everyone and welcome to Corporate Law Updates by Corporate Law Journal. Today we'll be discussing some updates from the first week of August. Let's start by discussing certain circulars issued by SEBI in exercise of its power under Section 11 Subclause 1 of SEBI Act 1992. These will be effective from September 1st, 2020. On August 3rd, SEBI issued a circular to all its registered proxy advisors. Under Regulation 24 Subclause 2 read along with 23 Subclause 1 of SEBI Research Analyst Regulations 2014, they provide a code of conduct for the proxy advisors to abide by. This circular provides some additional procedural guidelines for the proxy advisors. Now, they need to formulate a voting recommendation policy and disclose the same to their clients. They also need to disclose the methods they followed in the development of the research. They need to alert the clients about factual errors within 24 hours. The proxy advisors also need to have a stated communication process with their clients and the company. They need to share their reports with their clients and the company and disclose the same on their website. If any error or recommendation have been given by a company, then by taking it into a viewpoint, they need to revise the recommendation in the addendum report. They need to disclose legal requirements clearly in their recommendations. They also need to disclose conflict of interest in the documents. They also need to establish a procedure to disclose, manage, and mitigate any potential conflict of interest resulting from their business activities and disclose the same to their clients. Now coming to the second circular, SEBI notified a circular on 4th August 2020 to all its listed entities that have listed their specified securities and all recognized stock exchanges. It talks about grievance resolution between listed entities and proxy advisors. According to Regulation 4 Subclause 2 Subclause A of SEBI LODR 2015, it casts a certain obligation on the listed entities to protect and facilitate the exercise of the rights of shareholders. Due to the inherent nature of the work, proxy advisors and listed entities may probably have different views on any agenda item of the listed entity, leading to certain grievances. To facilitate the resolution of such grievances of listed entities against SEBI registered proxy advisors, the listed entities may approach SEBI. SEBI will examine the matter for non-compliance by proxy advisors with the provisions of the Code of Conduct under Regulation 24 Subclause 2 read along with Regulation 23 Subclause 1 of the SEBI Research Analyst Regulations 2014 and the procedural guidelines for the proxy advisors issued on August 3rd. Coming to the third circular issued by SEBI, there have been certain amendments introduced to SEBI International Financial Service Center Guidelines 2015. Based on consultations held with stakeholders, Clause 4 Subclause 2 of SEBI IFSC Guidelines 2015 is amended. Following amendments are made related to shareholding structuring of the stock exchanges and clearing houses through a circular issued on 7th of August. Now, all Indian and foreign stock exchanges and clearing corporations are required to form their subsidiaries to operate in India. At least 51% of the paid-up share capital shall be held by such stock exchange or clearing house. The remaining share capital can be held by any other person, but such person shall not at any time directly or indirectly, individually or in concert with any others acquire more than 5% of the paid-up equity share capital in clearing corporations in IFSC. Lastly, any other stock exchange, a clearing corporation, a depository, a banking company, an insurance company, a public financial institution of Indian jurisdiction, a foreign commodity derivative exchange, and a bilateral or multilateral financial institution approved by the central government may acquire or hold directly or indirectly, either individually or together with persons acting in concert, up to 15% of the paid up equity share capital of such clearing corporation or stock exchange. Now coming to certain amendments made by Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. IBBI notified second amendment to the IBBI voluntary liquidation process regulations on 6th of August. The regulation 5 has been amended to enable corporate persons to appoint insolvency professional as a liquidator through resolution by creditors or contributors. Such appointment has to be communicated to IBBI within 3 days of the appointment. IBBI also notified a third amendment to IBBI liquidation process regulation on the 6th of August. Regulation 4th has been amended to provide clarification regarding payment of fees to liquidator in two different situations. Firstly, when the liquidator releases the amount but does not distribute the same, he is entitled to fees corresponding to the amount released. Secondly, when the liquidator distributes the amount not released by him, then the liquidator is entitled to fees corresponding to the amount distributed. Now lastly, coming to the last amendment made by IBBI. IBBI notified a fourth amendment to the insolvency resolution process for the corporate person regulations 2016. The amendment is basically related to authorized representative, and the following changes are made through it. Regulation 4A, which refers to choice of authorized representative, has been amended. Amendment provides that all three choices offered under sub-regulation 2 must be from the state or union territory which has highest number of creditors in that class for better coordination and communication. In cases where such state or union territory do not have adequate number of insolvency professionals, the insolvency professional having addresses in a nearby state or union territory, as the case may be, can be considered. Secondly, the Regulation 16A, which talks about appointment of authorized representative, has also been amended. Under its sub-regulation 9, the authorized representative now has to circulate the agenda to the creditors in class and then ask them for their preliminary views on any item in the agenda. Now, the creditors need to have a time window of at least 12 hours to submit their views, and the said window should open at least 24 hours after the authorized representative has asked them for their views. Now, such views submitted by the creditors cannot be considered as a voting instructions by them. Now, the last amendment has been made to Regulation 39, which talks about the approval of resolution plan. Now, under its sub-regulation 3, the committee needs to evaluate the resolution plans received as per an evaluation matrix. They need to record its deliberations on feasibility and viability of each resolution plan and then cast a vote on all such resolution plans simultaneously. Now, such plans shall be considered approved if it receives highest number of votes, which must be more than the required minimum number of votes. That's it for today, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.